The Brewhouse was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery. But the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewhouse.com. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us in the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Nice to have Nate Rowan back with the Rochester Red Wings. Talk a little baseball today. Nate, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Co-host Mike Catalana, Channel 13, and Pat Duffy, wearing hockey second week in a row.
Yeah, I'm sorry not to mix it up. The Sabres Turd Burger jersey, love this thing. Western New York native.
The what?
The Turd Burger. That's what the former president of the team called them after they failed in the fans. Corey Conacher, Western New York native. Everybody's got a Corey Conacher third Sabres jersey, right?
I just didn't want to let that go by on.
I think you're the only one that doesn't know, Bill.
Does Corey Conacher have that sweater?
Probably.
Okay.
That's nice.
No, you're just saying that.
Nate, World Series over, baseball season is over. Takeaways from the Red Sox World Series win.
I think there's little doubt that the best team in baseball this year won the whole thing, and I don't think that happens a lot in sports, which is what makes the playoffs so interesting, because the best team in the regular season doesn't always necessarily win in the playoffs. But the Red Sox had to go through a 100-win team in the Yankees. They had to go through a 103-win team in the Astros, and then they had to beat a decent Dodger team in the World Series. The biggest takeaway, I guess, for me is just the games are taking way too long. It's unfortunate because you're trying to grow a new generation of baseball fans, and you're not allowing kids to stay up and watch the game, because by the time they have to go to bed, we're only in the third inning because they don't start games till 8:20.
Is that part of the reason why the ratings are down? Which personally offends me, by the way.
Well, I mean, I'm watching the games. You know, I just think that the sport has become all or nothing. It's a tough sport to watch now because you're either hitting a home run, striking out, or walking. It's not a fun game where guys are hitting doubles to the gaps. They're getting triples. They're legging out triples. There's great defensive plays. There's fewer balls in play. It's not as entertaining because guys go up there trying to hit home runs because these pitchers are so tough. We certainly saw it in the World Series. That's the Dodgers' mantra. We're either going to hit a home run or we're going to strike out.
We saw the team that win when it goes against that. They're almost a throwback.
Correct. Well, and that's people that follow baseball expect that to maybe shift back where teams are going to try to find guys that put the ball in play, because you can't have a lineup like the Dodgers have, because when it's all or nothing, if it's nothing for an entire series, they have no shot to win.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did. And my brother's a Dodgers fan, and he was in town, so we were sitting watching, trying to stay awake. Now, that game is the exception. I mean, it was a double game. It went 18 innings. I couldn't make it. I tried, and I had worked late that night, and I still couldn't make it to the end. If baseball really wants to change, it's not about the time the game starts. The game started at like 8:15. That's about 20 minutes later than it used to start years ago. It's how long it takes. If they really wanted to make changes, make real changes to speed the game up. Not saying you can walk a guy by pointing to first base. What's that save you? 1 minute a game every 3 games?
I mean, I totally forgot about that. Yeah. Like, what the heck's going on here?
But if you really want to change, limit the amount of pitching changes you can make. Change the amount. Obviously, they change things like you're only allowed, 6 visits to the mound in a game. Limit the amount of time a guy can step out of the batter's box. Speed the game up. Again, they don't want to do that for whatever reason. I don't understand. Baseball is slow to change. And even when you have a good product, and the Red Sox this year were a very good product in that way. Deep team with a bunch of guys that can contribute. You put people to sleep too much. The games just take too long.
It's funny you say that. So game 3 last Saturday night, right? We get back from something with my wife, and I turn the game on, and now she's interested because it's the World Series. So I'm trying to explain everything that's going on and get her into it. And right when we turned the game on is when they went left arm, left arm pitch with the Dodgers. So one batter, switch, one batter, switch. It's a 3 at bat that took 35 minutes, and my wife's asleep. I finally got hey, look at that. No, it's not going to do anything.
Manfred seems sensitive to these things. Will this World Series produce any serious change?
Well, to me, when you look at the ratings, you talk about the ratings being down. It was Boston and LA, and if those two markets can't get ratings, then there is a problem. Because aside from Boston, the only other market in the American League that you could argue would give you better ratings would be New York. And so that's concerning in itself, in that those two teams were in the World Series and the ratings were down.
And not only do you have two high-profile teams that have big fan bases, there are also teams that other fans dislike, right, for different reasons. Yankee fans against the Red Sox and Giants. So you have the teams that everybody likes or dislikes, and you can't draw the numbers. Speed the games up. And it really just takes somebody really looking at the product and saying, this is what we need to do. Maybe he's the guy to do it. But I think it's got to be pretty drastic.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. Buffalo Bills are next. The Press Box is brought to you in part by Bay & Goodman Pizza, a local Rochester favorite. Corner of North Winton and Browncroft, Bay & Goodman Pizza. Welcome back. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. Talk Buffalo Bills, 10-point underdogs at home against the Bears this week. I'm a big fan of chaos. This team delivers.
It's pitiful. I mean, offensively, it is pitiful when you look at what they have. Don't look at me that way. I know what you're going to say.
What am I going to say?
I've been telling you that my concern all along has been about the quarterbacks. It has gotten even worse. And some of it is kind of predictable. I said about poor Derek Anderson. He's 35. He looked 45. By the end of the game, he's 55. And I said by Monday night, he's going to be 65. And I saw him getting helped off the field with a concussion. And, then you sign Matt Barkley to come in. Every quarterback they've had on the roster has a career number of more interceptions than touchdowns, except for A.J. McCarron, the one guy they cut loose. They have done as poor a job putting this quarterback room together and organizationally play in the position of quarterback that any coach in the NFL has done. And I think they are totally to blame for themselves. They've even been unfair to Nate Peterman, who's going to start, because he shouldn't have been playing again, and now should not be the starter, but he has to be.
But it could be redemption, though. For
Shut up, Bill, redemption. You know what they always say? You need 7 tries to get it right. Like, if this guy built birdhouses, he would have been out of the birdhouse game a long, long time ago. Like, my birdhouse doesn't have a roof. Like, that's the end of the birdhouse building, right? But no, I do feel bad for Nate Peterman. You're right, because it's not his fault. He wants a job, and he's not going to say no to the starting position. It's interesting to bring that up, that now it's predictable. Because, somebody's been predicting what was going to happen the entire freaking time this is going on. Here's what I don't understand, okay?
That would be you, right? All right, just making it clear.
Here's what I don't get. Like, let's give McDermott the mistakes all the way up to Josh Allen getting hurt, right? Let's give him a pass on all of that. Forget all of the disaster that has happened up until injury to Josh Allen. The Bills signed Matt Barkley this week, right? Nate Peterman has never finished an NFL start that he's had, ever, due to injury or interception. Matt Barkley's going to play on Sunday at some point. It's an inevitability. It's going to happen. When Josh Allen got hurt and you had to sign Derek Anderson, you know you were a 35-year-old quarterback injury away from having one healthy quarterback on your roster. Why? Why do you not go find some young quarterback, undrafted free agent that no one's ever heard of, and put him on your practice squad to have a body that knows the offense to put on the field in case of emergency, which we're now in again? Like, just when you think he can't make any more mistakes with the quarterback situation, he does it again, because we're going to have Matt Barkley taking legitimate snaps in that game against the Bears on Sunday. And you don't think Khalil Mack is going to have the greatest return homecoming college of all time, looking at what's happening here? He can't even make it better when it's the worst it's ever been.
You buying the birdhouse reference?
Well, to me, I was on the show during camp, and we talked about the 3 quarterbacks. They shipped off A.J. McCarron for basically nothing. They had to. The fact that they continue to say, well, Nate Peterman's great in practice, it just bothers the heck out of me, because at some point, you got to put it together in a game. And they had A.J. McCarron. They could have kept A.J. McCarron. They didn't have to get rid of him. And I'm not sure that A.J. McCarron would save the season, and he's certainly not the greatest quarterback in NFL history, but I can tell you that I'm pretty confident A.J. McCarron's better than Nate Peterman.
Yeah.
And he would give them a better chance to win right now than Peterman does.
Well, I will say, in fairness to them, even with all their mistakes, even McDermott knows. He did not want to go back to Peterman. He put himself in a position to be forced to do that. Okay. No, I'm saying is he knows. He knows. His only move would have been to replace, back to your point, replace him. He does not want to go to him. He did not want to go to him before. He put himself in this spot. It's pitiful. He started Derek Anderson, who had been there a week and a half ahead of him. So what I'm saying is the logical side to McDermott is saying, I can't play Peterman, but the other side of him is stuck with him. It was a mistake that just keeps compounding and compounding
But
and compounding.
it compounds because you do nothing about it.
Yeah.
It's like you come home, your house is on fire, you put dinner in the oven, you call the kids to read a story, you go outside 3 hours later and go, my house is even more on fire.
That's a better reference than
I like the birdhouse reference. Thank
Birdhouse
you.
was bad.
Do some picks. Bills are getting 10.
If Peterman's starting, no, they're not covering 10 points. It's not going to happen.
Got another game?
I like the Rams-Saints matchup, just as a matchup period, but I think with the Saints being 2.5 dogs, they don't cover that 2.5 points against the Rams.
Alrighty, I like the Bears and the Bills game. I like the Texans even at Denver.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one, too. I'm going to take the Bears giving the points, and the Bears should not be giving 10 points to anybody, but I'll take them because I just don't see the Bills' offense doing anything. And I'm going to take the Redskins giving 2.5. Atlanta's not a good road team. Redskins are playing solid football.
Bills opened as a 8.5 dog, went to 10, which usually...
Chicago's
it's good news
defense.
for the
defense is good enough, and Peterman's turnover prone enough to cover that number on their own.
You too?
I'll take the Bears, and then I'll take the Saints as home underdogs. Anytime they're home underdogs, I'll take them. They're playing LA. I understand that the Rams are clearly the favorite to win the Super Bowl at the moment, but Saints as a home underdog for sure.
We are the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. Like it or not, next. Here's the Press Box trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Here's the Press Box trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. Like it or not, the teams that won at the trade deadline in the NFL.
I mean, there are a lot of interesting things happening. You know, your Eagles and Golden Tate and everything. Like, that's a solid mid-season trade deadline move because he is a receiver that has enough talent and is technically sound enough to make a difference even in a brand new offense. But I think the Bills did a great job of standing pat with their offense, right? What more do you need or get rid of with what you got going on here?
Well, they did add Terrell Pryor.
They didn't trade for him.
Yeah, they just picked up a guy. The Eagles, it's interesting. They give up a 3, which is a lot for a rental of Golden Tate. But at the same time, he plays for them. They think they can make a run. And then you'll get a compensatory pick for him, which is going to be a 3 or a 4 the year after that. So it's also sort of trading to get another pick if he decides to walk afterward. And the Rams, getting another defensive player to help them, and Fowler, who's another pass rusher. I think good teams make moves to be aggressive. I think it makes sense. It's hard to dump some of these players. I'm surprised the Bills didn't do more.
You like one in particular?
Golden Tate is the obvious one, I think, because he's the one acquisition yesterday or on the trade deadline that impacted a team that has a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl. I think all the other trades you look at, I think the Texans had a good get in Demaryius Thomas. They didn't have to give up a lot. All things considered, the Eagles had to give up a third-round pick. Cowboys gave up a first-round pick to get Amari Cooper the week before, which is idiotic. Yeah. But Demaryius Thomas is a good player for a fifth-round pick. I don't think anyone seriously considers Houston as a Super Bowl contender. So for me, it's Golden Tate simply because it was the move that impacts a team that has a chance to win the Super Bowl.
I was like rubbing it in on Dallas because the other two receivers that got dealt for less are better than the one they got for a 1.
Correct.
You always kind of know these things. You hear these things. Did Buffalo make an effort to deal anybody?
From what I understand, they were not the ones making the calls. They were receiving the calls. So I guess it's a point. I don't think there's much, if anything, you're getting for Kelvin Benjamin. I'm a little surprised. I'll say this now. Terrell Pryor is in. If Pryor comes in, gets set with the offense, and shows anything, I think Benjamin could be gone at some point. But that's just cutting a guy. That's not getting anything for him. McCoy could have brought you something. I do believe there was teams out there, but they just don't want to make the move.
Do you want to use the line about Pryor being the team's best what?
Well, no, we saw it earlier this week. You sign Pryor, he automatically becomes your team's best receiver and
best
quarterback. Yeah. Like at the same time. That's great.
sad.
No, this is awesome. I cheer for
I
them.
love chaos. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. Unfinished Business is next. And now here's this week's MVP Experience Stat of the Week, brought to you by Sport Clips, where it's good to be a guy. No appointment ever needed.
Came now to Eichel. He floated one. Score! Bacon, egg, cheese. Only one way to make this better. Another one. Dunkin' Go-Tos. Get 2 bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches for $5. America runs on Dunkin'.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us on the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. Unfinished Business, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Pat.
It's college basketball season, which means it's the start of college basketball coaches saying stupid things about whether or not kids should be played to pay college sports. For example, Syracuse is looking to have a pretty good season this year, but that didn't stop Jim Boeheim from saying something really stupid about his athletes being paid. Now, I'm paraphrasing. I don't have the quote in front of me, but when asked about it, Boeheim said essentially, these are 17, 18-year-old kids, and it's like an internship. And there are lots of 17-year-old kids who do work and don't get paid. And Jim Boeheim is absolutely right. Like the kid that works around the corner from the car wash that I go to around the corner here, right? Like that kid has a job that has $1 billion television contract for the tournament. Or his boss has a jacket with a sneaker logo, which pays him millions of dollars because that kid wears a certain logo. Is this guy serious? And then Boeheim uses his own kid as an example. You know, his son is playing for the Syracuse basketball team this year. Like that kid hasn't had every advantage in the world. I'm not holding it against the kid. My point is this. How are you so far away from the beginning of this sport that you can't see the forest for the trees anymore? And if you want to lie to keep your position and say you don't really feel this way, but I have to say it in front of a camera, fine, that's one thing. I think Boeheim really believes it. I think that while he's cashing $1 million checks and being suspended for having people do his players' tests and homework for him, he thinks there's still nobility in college basketball, and it's all about the competition. And it's about time we as human beings realize it ain't about noble basketball anymore. It's about the TV money and the sneaker money. Just pay the kids, for God's sakes.
It's just a way to figure out how to do it, I think, is really the only hell holdup.
Well, I'm pretty sure if you have a pile of money, they'll figure out a way to distribute it just fine.
Hey.
I want to talk about the Sabres, because we didn't talk about the Sabres today, and go along with Duffy's jersey, which I wish the Sabres had Corey Conacher, because Corey Conacher is a decent player. And the Sabres hadn't had a lot of decent players in the last couple of years. But the Sabres made a great acquisition in the offseason to acquire Jeff Skinner from the Carolina Hurricanes. And Skinner is probably the most underrated move of the offseason, and the fact that the Sabres got him for nothing from the Hurricanes is incredible. He's playing great with Jack Eichel on the top line, and Jason Pominville is playing on a top line in the NHL. But if that line doesn't score, they have a hard time putting up points. The fact is, though, Carter Hutton at the back end is keeping them in games, and he's been a good acquisition for them. Linus Ullmark might be the best backup goalie in the NHL, and when he comes in, the Sabres really don't lose a whole lot. The team is steadily improving. They're a more entertaining team to watch than they were last year, and I'm excited for the direction of the Buffalo Sabres. The players will continue to get better because they're a young team, and I'm looking forward to what the Sabres have to offer the rest of the season.
I think it's great that it's not just totally the luck of the lottery that played into this team, that they are doing other things that are working.
Well, and the moves that the previous regime made really didn't work out, and the fact that Bottrell's already made moves that are paying dividends now is really impressive, I would say.
All right, this is not exactly breaking news, but the Golden State Warriors are absurd. Over the last week, look at what happened with that team. This is why they are the best team, and this is why they are the prohibitive favorite to win it again. We know how great they are, but Steph goes out and puts up 51 in a game and then sits down for basically the second half of that game. And then a little while after that, they come to Madison Square Garden, and Kevin Durant, when he knows Knicks fans would love to see him go there, just decides in the fourth quarter, I'm going to make shots from every part of the court and ends up scoring 41. They are down in the fourth. They win the game by 28. And Klay Thompson's sitting around thinking, I got to do something. Why not hit 14 three-pointers in a game? He's the third option for the team. They are the prohibitive favorite. Nate talked about the best team winning like the Red Sox. The Red Sox were the best team in baseball. The Warriors are absurdly better than every other team. Everybody will try to challenge. It'll still be interesting. It'll still be fun. But the Warriors are head and shoulders above everybody.
You know
in
what
basketball.
I thought last year they were one injury away from being competitive with the rest of the league, but now it's two.
Well, they
need
showed
two
that.
guys to
They
go
do
down.
show moments. Like Houston had a shot to knock them out last year, but when they're ready and they're playing their way, nobody can touch them.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Unfinished Business, presented by Dunkin' Donuts. Good job, Nate. Nice to have
Bill.
you back.
Thanks for having me.
Guys, as always,
Thank you.
thank you for joining us. See you next week with the Rochester Press Box.